wake of New York State Governor Cuomo's request to open the door on corruption was the closed-door policy the commission displayed at the hearings. Seems like they don't want anyone to expose them for their corruptive ways. Not me, they seem to say. And no, you can't come in to speak at the hearing. You can't say we want to investigate corruption and then not allow anyone in to testify. Then screen the speakers, as was so at the hearing. Ladies and gentlemen, there's an absent voice that government always screens out. It is we, the people. I have with me to discuss this on the forum on Governor Cuomo's recent Cuomo's Moreland Commission on Corruption. To my left is George Drance, public policy advocate. To his left, Carl Ancesera, Americans for Legal Reform. And to his left on the far side, Bill Hayes, Americans for Legal Reform member. So, it was my experience that there was too many people out in front of the building not getting in. There was an awful lot of people lined up outside that didn't have a voice to say, didn't have an opportunity to say anything. And I can't imagine who got in to that hearing and left us out and how that happened. So,
well, first I want to thank you, Chris, for these shows, the opportunity to speak on television. You've done a great job over the past
thank you, Carl.
15 years with over 500 TV shows, and
thank you.
Tremendous effort. But we were called together by Governor Cuomo, who had a public hearing on corruption, called the Moreland Commission. He scheduled 3 public meetings, one in New York City, one in Albany, and one in Buffalo, and invited the public to come down and speak. And his website, the Moreland Commission, people signed up, and then they added a footnote. You had to submit a written document of what you were going to say. It had to be read first. Well, some people did, and I went down there with a bunch of people, and I was allowed in, but all of my associates were locked out. And it was a small room. 25 people were selected to be on the commission by Cuomo.
There were 25 people on the board,
yes,
listening to the testimony?
There's 25 people on the board.
How many people were able to speak?
There were probably 75 people in the room, and about 10 people was selected by the commission to speak, and they had unlimited time, key people in politics.
Doesn't that seem odd to you that there were more people listening than there were speaking?
There was more people listening than speaking, and you were limited, the public was limited to only 3 minutes. You can't cook an egg in 3 minutes without even trying to solve corruption. That was the first hearing, and on my right and left are 2 of my associates who were shut out.
Yeah. Did you you didn't get a chance to speak, George?
No, I did not. Actually, I was encouraged when I saw that the governor had appointed, and the name of the commission, or the purpose, appointed a commission to investigate public corruption. Well, that's refreshing.
Yeah.
The governor acknowledging that there is public corruption. And the section, whatever, probes systemic corruption and the appearance of such corruption in state government. Well, I think we've all been victimized one way or another by so-called public servants giving us the back of their hand. And I thought this would be an opportunity to give the commission some of my experience that I might investigate. Except guess what? And I also thought Pace University, they'll certainly have a big university, big auditorium. But the room was so, I don't know what size room it was, but there were hundreds of us out there, hundreds, who were pushed around by goons and big suits, and I guess they had security problems, but we were not allowed to go anywhere near.
I'm not allowed to get in.
Not allowed to get in.
So you took a trip to Pace University in the city, which is not easy to begin with.
I didn't mind the trip. That's something, if I have to be someplace and I think I can make a contribution, I want to do that. But I felt betrayed. I was invited to a so-called public hearing, only the public wasn't allowed.
Chris, George, and myself go back over 20 years testifying at public hearings on different aspects of government. The first one was the Craco Commission,
Exactly.
over 20 years ago here in the Suffolk
I s-
courts.
I spoke at that
And
hearing,
we've
too.
testified at many hearings through the years. Another one was the Sampson hearings on the judicial system. Gone by the wind, all of these hearings.
There was a Maryland somebody hearing the matrimonial commission.
It was the
matrimonial commission.
Craco Commission, and most recently, the Sampson Commission in 2009 about the courts. They had judges and lawyers
So what is it?
testify.
Just lip service? So they have to say it. So they have to provide a hearing like that.
Well,
Is there something they have to do perfunctorily? They have to
in
get
my
this.
in my opinion, Cuomo is looking to become president, and he's looking for achievements. And what better to have a commission on corruption? The first meeting, as George said, was called the Moreland Commission to investigate public corruption. The second meeting, they took the part to investigate public corruption, added a title, and it was just
Moreland.
campaign contributions.
Well,
They
they
had a-
said Moreland Commission, but that didn't really mean anything.
Yeah, it didn't say anything anymore. So they limited it. They were so overwhelmed by people in and out of the.
I just
meeting.
find it wrong to ask the people to come to speak and give testimony at a hearing and not allow them the opportunity.
Well-
If they it looks like a huge mismanagement or the corruption that we're supposed to investigate was evident in their absence by not performing for us.
I mean, it smacks of
Yeah, it's
communism.
more
First of
corruption.
all, you have to submit what you want to write, what you want to say in writing to be approved. Many people came and they had written letters that they were accepted to come in and speak, and they were locked out.
And as a public observer, I wanted to come to see what was going to be exposed. I wanted to go in because it was a public hearing. But here we were, online. They kept us out there for quite a while,
In the cold.
and they did not allow the people to go in and watch. And that was the reason I had gone there, because I wanted to learn what I could about this Moreland Commission's investigation. Unfortunately, they had motorcycles, police motorcycles, horses. They had, somebody said there was a helicopter flying overhead. They had top brass from the university, as Carl said, a goon squad. And we were not allowed to witness what this commission was all about because they didn't have adequate facility to accommodate. Now, the next time we went to the meeting up in Albany, they had more than enough, but people couldn't travel that long distance up there. As it was, we had come from out on Long Island, which was quite a trip for us too. But I went there basically to witness this public hearing, which was closed to the public.
The person that helped notify us was judicialwatch.org, Elena Sassauer's
right.
group. And she's the one that publicized it. If you go to the website, you can see on her website.
Is www.judgewatch.org.
Yes, and it's run by Elena Sassauer, who has testified at many public hearings, and in fact, one public hearing where she asked to speak in Washington, D.C., they locked her up for 6 months in jail. And her only request was, can I speak at this public hearing? And so these are the type of public hearings that our government runs. Now you can go on Google and Google the Moreland Commission or go to judgewatch.org, and you can hear the first hearing is up on the computer.
On YouTube.
On YouTube, the hearing. But the camera was so placed that the back of everyone's head is there. You can't see them speak. And the only one was the 25.
We should point out
Commission
that
members.
Elena Sassauer is now running a campaign to help hold the commission accountable for their lapse.
Right.
Out of I believe it was a 3-hour hearing, 1 full hour was spent talking about the members of the panel, not investigating.
How wonderful they are. Many of them were district attorneys, assistant district attorneys throughout New York State, including Kathleen Rice from Nassau County. She's number 2 on the speaker.
Well, frankly, I was impressed by that panel, and I thought we'd really get some results. Like you say, Kathleen Rice was co-chair, and one distinguished person after another in federal government, in state government, and private lawyers. And I thought this was a real business-like operation. But so far, let's say I'm disappointed.
Well, what happened in Albany was shocking, and now they have since canceled the Buffalo hearing.
Really?
And there's no third hearing. They had 2.
What happened in Albany then?
Well, there were 2 things that happened. One of the speakers testified that they limited Albany just to campaign contributions. There's over 25 New York State legislators have left office voluntarily when they heard that there was going to be an investigation on campaign contributions. And the rules are campaign contributions for an individual or a corporation have a maximum of $5,000. But if you're an LLC, the
Limited Liability Corporation.
you can donate $150,000. And there's one gentleman in New York City that's building $90 million condominiums. And he has set up through Cuomo's office tax deductions for people that buy these $90 million condominiums so that they have tremendous write-offs. And this builder has 75 limited liability corporations that he's donated $150,000. And he testified one of the recipients was Cuomo. So Cuomo has opened his own can of worms, and you want to see a bunch of 25 red faces. A second,
How is the world, other than you and I talking about it here on the show, how is the world going to hear about this?
well, let me just say the second shocking speaker was a fired ADA from Buffalo.
Assistant District Attorney?
Yeah.
Yeah, an assistant district attorney from Buffalo who was commissioned to investigate campaign contributions in Buffalo. And he came up with the fact that the district attorney of Buffalo, who is on the panel, received cash campaign contributions. And the district attorney says, I don't want that information, you're fired. So with that, the commission in Buffalo broke immediately and everybody left the room. So they have a bag of worms here. It's on television. There were many lists.
That event was
audience.
on television?
It was shocking, and I'm just saying the outline of it.
Yeah.
So this guy, the following day, the question is, how does it get out? The following day, it was on radio. A few TV shows upstate New York have picked it up, and unless we, the people, Americans for Legal Reform, social conscious people, spread the word, it's going to die. And the idea is, even though the commission is not having, that at this point has not announced any further meetings, we should still all write the commission our complaints, encourage our friends that have been wrongfully hurt by corruption, write letters, and just to write the commission,
Yeah.
Kathleen Rice in particular, and tell her what happened to the commission.
You should
Where was
also
the rest of it?
you should
Where-
also connect with the judgewatch.org to see about her effort to launch that campaign.
Elena Sassow is spending a great deal of her personal time over the past 20 years exposing corruption in the court with judges. Of course, they don't want to hear that, but she's trying to organize complaints. If you contact her with your script, she'll help you edit it a little bit and type it so it's legible and they could understand it, and send it in. And she's trying to keep a list on a computer. The idea of us, the public, is to document these events and not let them die, as we said in the past, to give it legs, to notify our media acquaintances, our friends, and keep it going. What happened, Mr. Cuomo? What happened to the commission?
Yeah, so
the Moreland Commission.
Encouraging everybody to go to www.judgewatch.org and assist Elena Sassower with the launching of that accountability on this, of this hearing.
It's a controlled.
I've spoken at hearings before. I don't recall this kind of scenario, but there seemed to have been misinformation with what the topic was going to be and how much was allowed to be covered in testimony. It was a little confusing when I saw it first.
They kept changing
Yeah.
the rules. By the way, the rule for $150,000 donation limit for LLCs was canceled by New York State and then restated by our legislators. So they like it the way it is, and they like the cash that's coming in to them, cash or donations or whatever.
This is why we have to have term limits, because the amount of corruption that's above us.
Absolutely.
If-
Our motto is don't vote for lawyers,
Yeah.
but it's become, and don't vote for the
Incumbents, yeah.
But it's become very serious, and our government, whether you're left or right, is not pure.
Right.
And
You know what? The sound of that, for John Q. Public to hear what you people are saying to me, I'm trying to listen with their ear. Sounds like you sounded very intelligent about what happened because you guys were there. You got a feel for it.
well, we took our time. We took our day off from our lives, hired a limo to bring us up there, a driver, because we drove 5 hours each way, attended a meeting for 3 hours, and turned around and come
That was
back.
the point I was going to make, is that most people won't follow that up. They won't do this on their own. We can't put a carrot out in front of us to say this is why you need to do it. It's either common sense or it's not common sense. To me, the common sense is right. It's right here. Here it is. You went to a hearing. You went to a hearing for a good reason.
A public hearing.
A public hearing. You took your time out. The governor presented it. How much more authentic do you need? There wasn't anything that I saw.
We were excited. Wow.
Right.
Yes, Chris,
Cuomo.
we really felt when we went there that we were going to be shown government as honest government, exposing itself and being open about it. But instead, we wound
Yeah.
up almost forced into a kind of civilized protest, and that was not what we went there for. We didn't
Yeah.
go there to protest. We went there to learn.
That's what I was saying in the opening read. I mean, here we are for corruption, and then it seems like the corruption existed in the
Well-
organization of the hearing on corruption.
Yeah.
Cuomo taking $150,000 from an LLC is not illegal, but it's unethical, and it should have been disclosed, not to be by one of the speakers.
But you had a chance to speak.
In fact, both the speakers that made these announcements that I mentioned had submitted different written announcements because they knew they wouldn't be able to speak if they had put down what they were going to say. And the New York City gentleman that has 75 LLCs to get $90 million condo tax breaks. At the same time, the next speaker was a black gentleman from New York that said that the poor in New York are being deprived of their benefits because the state has no money. So they're giving
Money to
tax
politicians.
deductions to wealthy $90 million apartment buyers, and the poor are being
Right.
put out on the streets. And this young fella was someone that lived on the streets with his family as a child, and now is active in.
And they wonder why we claim that there's classism in our society. They're developing a class, the upper class, a class of untouchables, above the law. Those people that are above
Well, the question is
commonplace.
how long
No
is
question.
the
No
question
question
is
about
how
it.
long is the public going to take this? I mean, they could keep watching football, and that's what the idea is. That's what the Romans did. Give them shows,
Bread and circuses, they say.
bread and circuses,
Yeah.
and keep them busy. So keep the television going, keep the football going, and the people
Yeah.
that need help are not getting it because the state hasn't got the money. Now, Cuomo has an obligation. He started this. He opened this can of worms to cancel it What are we doing here?
Yeah, no, we have to
And
stay
there's
on board this,
25
yeah.
people on that commission. They know about it now. And to bury it, they are co-conspirators
I was going
by
to say
the
that
law.
now they're co-conspirators. Did you get a chance to speak? No. Right?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
I wasn't even allowed in the place. But
I did speak, George, and I only had 3 minutes. And I said to them, basically, you don't want more laws. There's so many laws on the books now, they don't follow them. District attorneys do not follow do not enforce egregious perjury. Very simple law. It's on the books. You don't need another law.
Right.
And their comment always is, because we've talked to them, Americans for Legal Reform.
Take too long, too much time.
Well, you can't stop people from lying. You're not going to stop everyone from lying. If there's 20 birds on a fence and you shoot one of them, how many are left? You have to stop some people from egregious perjury.
Hopefully it'll make an example to the rest.
we'll
Go ahead,
never
George.
be able to stop them from lying,
No.
but there should be accountability. This is the law. You tell the truth, and we love to hear you. If you lie, there are consequences.
Right, and instead of ignoring it, how long are we going to ignore this? So to make more laws is not going to do any good. You have enough laws. Enforce the laws that you have, what I said in what can you say in 3 minutes?
Yeah, not a heck of a lot.
You had campaign contributions of $150,000 for LLCs. You eliminated, and then you put it back. What are we doing here? This government is a joke.
When we first started to hear about the hearing, the focus was about campaign.
Financial.
No,
only?
no,
I'm
it
reading
wasn't.
that was the encouraging part, that the purpose of the commission was to investigate public corruption. In other words, it was a given that there is public corruption.
It didn't say anything about the focus below.
No.
So that's why we were all
It
buffaloed.
gets better,
We're all-
and this is what gave me encouragement to think something positive was going to happen. This is right from the Moreland Commission's own statement of the mission statement, okay? And it goes on to say that this is under the Moreland Act and Executive Law Section 63(8) to probe systemic corruption and the appearance of such corruption in state government, political campaigns, and elections in New York State. Now, how much more clearly can that be stated?
It's
And
a
yet-
wonderful statement.
It's a great, and that gave me encouragement, and all I can say, disappointing is an understatement. I don't know what's going on, but it seems like a sham.
You know, you say in the beginning, you said something about you're not worried about wasting time.
No, I'll give the time.
Yeah, that was just you. Do you know how many people are upset about that they went down there and wasted their time?
Hundreds in
There
New
are
York.
plenty
I
of
don't know
people.
what, yeah.
Plenty of people who wasted their time. I don't know how you feel about that, but to me, time is everything.
Oh,
if
yeah.
you take my time, I'm going to give it to you. If we can share something out of it, we can get something out of it.
Yeah.
If we can't get anything out of it, what am I sharing? I'd be wasting my time, wouldn't I? So they took it upon themselves to waste, basically,
They're stealing our time.
stole our time, and which includes also money and relationships with our family, whatever else we might have. If I knew, for instance, that they were going to shut out the door, I wouldn't have gone.
Exactly. And we thought that Pace University was going to do the job of supplying the facility for everybody to be able to be there and witness this Moreland Commission investigation of corruption.
And they set aside this tiny room that not even 100 people could fit
Well,
in.
again, I say,
restricted it.
judgewatch.org, Elena Sassower,
Right.
has a website. She's collecting names of people that are frustrated and their complaints and trying to put it up on the computer, on YouTube, and sending it. Send your letters to the Moreland Commission, send your letters to Cuomo, send your letters to Kathleen Rice.
What is Elena doing? So she called me before the program, tried to give me some information, but it was very difficult because I was late. But what else is she going
She's
to do?
trying to organize these.
She's counting people too,
unheard-
isn't she? Also,
What's that?
organizing lists of people that were
Right.
not able to give testimony.
She's organizing the complaints and the people and sending them, encouraging them to send them to the Moreland Commission, to Cuomo, and to the press. Listen, we still hopefully have something to say about government.
Well, there's an awful lot of hearings that. I mean, how often do they have a hearing in this area for us in corruption? Once every 3 years, 10 years? I
Yeah,
don't know.
last one was 2009, the
Yeah.
Sampson hearing.
But it didn't involve this one. This one was exciting because we have all been, as members of Legal Reform, interested in the fact that we see the corruption, yet we
We've been
can't.
victimized by the corruption.
And we can't.
Yeah.
We wouldn't do this. I've been doing
Right.
this for 20 years. George has been doing it for 20 years.
I've been
Bill-
in it for as long as that, too. 20
Bill
years.
is an ex-Ross Perot advocate.
Well, we're not going to get anywhere unless we follow through with it. So we do have to follow through with it.
Encourage our friends to follow through.
Right, and there's a lot of civic education that we're missing because in the schools they don't teach this stuff. I mean, wouldn't it be a good idea if at the high school level they started to teach things about this? Bring
One
some
time there was a thing called the civics course.
yeah, civics course, yeah.
Patriotism and civics and responsibility, and that we don't see anymore.
I was a school teacher, and that's what I taught my students, to be open and to be honest. And for it, I have seen more corruption. I've been punished by the courts, and I've been very, very upset about it because I can see that many times we see things happening in the courts, which is one of the things that Americans for Legal Reform does.
Bill has just recently lost his home.
They threw, the
Did they-
sheriff came in and took everything I own. I'm a 70-year-old man. Everything I own, my library, my violins, my books, my tools that I
He
had,
took his
and
house.
took them and threw it out in the street, and I have lost my whole history of my family. I had documents, I had stamps from the founding of the State of Israel.
And this is a house that was fully paid for, had no mortgage, had no bills
And
on
I
it,
paid
no
taxes.
encumbrances.
I always paid my taxes.
But they can come in, if you own a house, they take it from you in 1 week. If you rent a house, it takes them 2 years to evict
Yeah.
you.
I now know what the people who went through the Holocaust experienced by having all of their personal possessions
Sure.
taken away from them overnight.
Sure. I'm hoping that these stories that you're telling us about what happened at the hearing that didn't happen, the hearing that
The
never
event-
was,
The event that never
yeah,
was.
and we have to go forward with this in terms of complaining to our local politicians. Thank you very much. I got to wrap this up, but thank you, and maybe we'll follow this program up. I think
Thank
it's
you,
important.
Chris.
Political perceptions and media-driven narratives are rapidly carrying away our social order, the common good, and the common sense of all Americans. What should be changed is too slow and seems endlessly tied up in knots. Americans are fast becoming victims of this brain salad surgery. We ask you to help us help you return our country to its former viable self. Until then, we will continue to tell it like it is. Thank you for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.